Okay, so I haven't done this in a while. This is your, I don't know, bi-monthly reminder that I still exist. I think it's been a month and a half, almost 2 months since I posted, which is absolutely awful. I just got back from Vancouver. I was out on the West Coast. I took along Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, and the goal was to read this entire thing in the 2 weeks that I was there and to film a couple of videos on it. That didn't happen at all. I got wrapped up in gelato and going for walks and seeing movies and eating steak and going to the opera. But I am back in Ottawa now. I am back where I belong. I have a new mug. Canada, 150 years on the A team. This was sold by the major chain bookstore here in Canada, Chapters. It is, of course, in celebration of Canada's 150th birthday this summer, July 1st. And I couldn't resist this. I actually got another one too. The world needs more Canada, and that's kind of dangerous. I'm just going to leave it there because stuff fell over back there, and I will deal with that later. But I'm absolutely in love with this mug. I just had to buy it. I posted it on Instagram and Twitter, so if you saw it there, then you already knew it existed. But the main purpose of this video is to kind of do a recent reads video. What have I been reading in the last almost 2 months since I posted a video here on BookTube? It was a very busy of months for me. That didn't make sense. It was a very busy couple of months for me. That's a sentence. That's how English works. It was a very busy couple of months. I was wrapping up the second term of my graduate studies. Much more difficult than I anticipated. Grades were not exactly what I expected. I was trying to find a co-op job for this summer. Did not succeed there either, so things are just going well. I'm looking for part-time work or full-time work elsewhere for the spring and summer. I'm also enrolled in courses. I'm doing a directed reading course on Senate reform. Put the syllabus for that together by myself last week while I was on vacation. Also why I didn't end up reading a lot. But near the end of last month, I was wrapping up doing readings from a book called Contemporary Canadian Federalism, Foundations, Traditions, and Institutions. I read almost all the essays in this over the course of the term. I won't get too much into this because it's basically a bunch of essays about Canadian federalism, theories of federalism, different perspectives, dealing with everything from Quebec's role in, Quebec's place in the Federation rather, to social policy, etc., etc. But I was sent a book by a publisher as well. I don't usually accept things from publishers, but this piqued my interest because it is a book in translation. It's from Glasgow Publications. It's about a Soviet soldier near the end of the Second World War. Very pretty cover, lavender on the front there. It's by Vasyl Bukow. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. I am not familiar with the author, translated by Nikolai Kilo. Originally published in 2013, I believe. Translated in 2013. I'm not sure what the original publication date is. It doesn't say. The author lived from 1924 to 2003, so definitely not originally published in 2013. I was kind of expecting something more. It was kind of a letdown. I thought, this is a piece of Eastern European literature in translation. I just was not impressed. I actually read most of it while I was proctoring an exam. It's very thin, and I just had to keep an eye on the students, look up every few minutes, collect exams and whatnot. And so I was sitting there and reading this, but as I said, I was not impressed. The Soviet soldier himself seems to be a very well-built character. I was quite drawn into his backstory. At the beginning, there's been some sort of explosion. He was a prisoner of war. He and his buddies manufactured this explosion. They were supposed to be diffusing bombs. They took a diffused bomb and activated it again. It exploded, and I believe it killed a number of his companions, but he was able to get away. And as he is running through these woods, away from this camp, being chased by the Germans, he meets a woman. This isn't surprising because you kind of expect there to be another character in a novel like this. But the woman is not very well fleshed out. In fact, I found her portrayal a little bit animalistic. One of the first things she does, they don't speak the same language, but one of the first things that she does is use her teeth to remove a splinter from his foot. He doesn't ask her to do it, she just goes and does it like it's something normal to do. She's tagging along behind him. We go a very, very long time without figuring out why she's there, what she wants, why she suddenly decided to attach herself to this man that she suddenly met in the woods. It was just, I felt like it could have been done better. It was a good concept. Maybe something was lost in translation, it's hard to say. But I overall did not really enjoy Alpine Ballad all that much, or at all really, which is disappointing. And as I'm sitting here, I realize that I forgot to put it into Goodreads at all. I do have a second book from the same publisher that was given to me, and I'm hoping I'll like it better than this one. In addition to this, I also read a book that Janelle from the Page Turner sent me. I sent her a copy of Elizabeth Smarts by Grand Central Station. I sat down and wept a couple months ago, and about a month ago she sent me this in return. It's The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. Now, I had never heard of this book, but she had read it already, and she loved it. I believe she said she loved its portrayal of love. She hadn't seen it depicted in such a real way anywhere else. That is, of course, not a direct quote. I am paraphrasing from our Twitter conversation. But this was a nice light read. I sat down and read it in one sitting. Actually, the day it arrived, I was kind of stressed in the middle of papers and whatnot, and I just wanted something light, and light is what it was. It did have its flaws, though. I found the writing style not exactly up to par. It did something that I found to be very amateurish, very annoying at times. Okay, my camera just cut out, so let's try this once again. The Bridges of Madison County. As I was saying, it did something that I didn't really like. It did the thing where different characters relay the same events to the reader over and over and over again. One character will explain what happened, and then they'll explain that they told this other character. And that character will then begin explaining what they were told. Then they will tell another character, and so on and so forth. And the reader gets essentially the same events told over and over and over again with a different character's reaction added to it. The Bridges of Madison County is a love story. It's a rather sweet love story. A little bit on the unrealistic side, though. We have a farmer's wife in Madison County. She meets a photographer who's there to photograph a covered bridge. He stops by her farmhouse when her husband and children are away for a week, and it's kind of a love at first sight type of thing. She invites him for dinner. They have a number of evenings together. They drink, they have sex, so on and so forth. He invites her to go away with him. She's, of course, hiding this from everyone in this local town, all the neighbors, from her husband, from her children. She believes that she has a duty to her husband and to her children, and that she must continue the path that she's chosen for herself. And so she sacrifices this great love she's discovered, this great love that she believes is the love of her life. And she never sees him again. They don't keep in touch. But she writes a long letter to her children explaining this relationship. And the novel indicates that even on her deathbed, she still believed that this man that she met for 1 week of her life was the love of her life. I'm not saying that can't happen, but it just doesn't seem that realistic. To spend your entire life pining over someone that you spent 1 week of your life with. And as I said, it wasn't that well written. The plot left a little bit to be desired, but it was a very nice light read, even though I was very critical of it. The other thing that I've been reading over the past month is something that I showed in a library hall last fall. As a grad student, I thankfully have a very long loan period with the ability to renew. And that is Simone de Beauvoir's A Transatlantic Love Affair, Letters to Nelson Algren. I always have trouble with that last name. He is the author of The Man with the Golden Arm, which was of course made into a movie. So this is not exactly what I expected either. It is a collection of Simone's letters to Nelson, but it's one-sided. I sort of expected that it would be both of their letters, but it's simply hers, so we are missing half of the conversation. She was in love with Nelson, but she refused to leave Sartre. She refused to leave France and Paris to live in the United States with him, and he, of course, did not feel that he could go to Paris to live there, even though he wanted to marry her, and her unwillingness to devote her entire life to him is what led to their relationship, to the end of their relationship. He actually got back together with his ex-wife, telling Simone that he couldn't be in love with her anymore, even though she was, it seems from her letters, almost desperately in love with him. So these letters begin in the 1940s and stretch into the 1960s. So that's over 20 years of letters from Simone. At the beginning, of course, there are many more. She is writing multiple times a week. These letters take a while to make it across the Atlantic Ocean in the 1940s, of course. Okay, one more time. My camera is just not doing what I want it to do today. And I was almost done, too. But Nelson and Simone, I'm going to try to remember where I was. I was telling you about their letters. So as I said, their letters span about 20 years, and they flew to see each other a number of times. But eventually Nelson decided that the relationship was not working for him. And though Simone seems to have been in love with him for many years after that, they became more like friends. I'm almost done. I've got about 100 pages left of these letters to get through, and I've already reached the point where he has told her that he is no longer in love with her. He didn't exactly tell her in the nicest way either. He waited until she had flown across the ocean to see him in the United States, to spend a couple of months with him, and when she arrived, he said he no longer loved her. So she spent a very miserable summer by the lakes. But they're interesting letters to read. It's kind of cute. They have a little froggy and alligator nicknames for each other. Simone is very frank about things. She tells him everything. She talks about Camus, she talks about Sartre. She gives nicknames to the people in her life. She was actually writing these letters in English because she learned to speak and write English fluently. She's constantly jabbing at Nelson for not learning French, calling him lazy, telling him that he should. He does not. Some of the people she talks about, they seem very interesting. She paints them in a not so positive light. She talks about her sister quite a bit. Her sister was an artist. She had no faith at all in her sister's ability to create works of art. She believed that her sister should quit art together, even when her sister convinces the museum to show her work. She believed that the museum has made a mistake. She's not supportive of her sister at all. There is someone that she refers to as the ugly woman. The ugly woman is in love with Simone. They have a meal and drinks once or twice a month. It isn't clear why Simone hangs out with the ugly woman, or why she calls her the ugly woman at all. Simone refers to gay men as pansies. She uses the term as if it's as if it's an accepted term, as if she is calling them, I don't know, taxi drivers or bakers. She uses it like it's an acceptable term, like it's something you would say. At first, I wondered whether she was using it maliciously, but it doesn't seem so. It seems as though she's just using it as a label and doesn't see the problem with it. But I really am enjoying these letters, even if I get a little disgusted at the soppiness of some of them. In the beginning, she refers to Nelson as her husband, even though they're not married, of course. But she begins with, like, dearest husband. She gets very sappy. She expresses her love frequently, and in some of her later letters, you get the sense that she has realized that Nelson is, in fact, annoyed with her constant sappiness, her constant need to declare her love for him. She comes across as a little bit clingy, a little bit worrisome, even though they are continents apart. If she doesn't get a letter from him on the day she expects, she freaks out a little bit. There's one where she relates how she wondered if something had happened to him, if he was injured, if he was dead. A couple of times she muses that when she didn't receive a letter from him, perhaps he had abandoned her. Perhaps he would never write to her again, and of course he does. It's an interesting relationship dynamic, and as I'm reading, I can't help but wonder how much of this love affair was on Simone's side and how much of it was on Nelson's. I have no doubt that at the beginning of it, they were in love. I'm going to leave it at that for today. I'll see you all soon.